It is an epic production that has been years in the making. A movie that was once thought impossible to make. Based on the biggest selling science fiction story of all time, the film is Dune. The scope of this undertaking was staggering and extended into every aspect of development. The initial search for shooting locations lasted months and covered 4 continents. Its filming required the use of over 20,000 extras and 4 separate camera units, shooting 6 days a week. Former #1 bestseller is the author, 63-year-old Frank Herbert. Books to the Dune series. The basis of his success is his in-depth research. His first story required 6 years of painstaking investigation. However, the title came to him instantly.
It popped in my head one day, just like a headline. Dune.
To give the feeling of reality to a picture set in the year 10,191, a whole new universe had to be designed and brought to life. The man put in charge of this $40 million production was director David Lynch, best known for his Oscar-nominated film, The Elephant Man.
It's a challenge and it's a risk because people have their own interpretation, their own, mental, idea of the way things are going to be.
Dune tells the story of 2 royal houses fighting to control the universe, and of a young man named Paul Atreides, who grows to manhood and leads his followers to freedom.
Long live the fighters!
Action! The most important task was finding an actor to play the lead character of Paul. The nationwide search lasted 1 year and went through hundreds of actors. Yet it was this screen test by a total unknown that caught the eye of producer Rafaela De Laurentiis and director David Lynch.
We went around the United States 3 times and we came back with nothing. And we found this young man by accident.
Well, he rolled down here from Seattle and he'd never been in front of a camera before. What was so surprising is every doggone thing that he's supposed to have is there. Now, if he doesn't get it, we're crazy.
I was kind of in shock for a minute. I mean, even to be considered. And then I just got ready for it. It wasn't, it was another audition, actually, but it was an audition for something that was very special.
While Kyle had no problem performing his scenes, he still had some apprehensions about whether they were good enough to land him the role.
When I finished screen testing and there was a lot of positive things, I felt like I had a shot, maybe.
The first time I saw him in front of a camera, I knew we had Paul.
Father! The sleeper has awakened!
Kyle got the part and quickly realized that not only would his acting ability be tested, but his physical abilities as well.
Yourself, but true.
I fought with a robot, I fought with a man, I also fought with within the shield.
Special effects such as these are intertwined in a complex plot which takes place over 4 distinctly different planets. Caladan, a planet blessed with water and trees. Arrakis, known as Dune, the barren desert planet that conceals great power. Kaitane, home of the powerful emperor of the known universe. And Gedi Prime, the gritty industrialized planet of the evil Harkonnens. Ever since Kyle MacLachlan first read Dune 11 years ago, it has had a great effect on his life. And it appears it is going to remain that way for quite a while.
Right now, I'm just riding high on what I got.
I thought this has to be the picture I've got to do. It's a big design picture. And I thought that there was such a variety of things to do. We had to design everything from the knife and fork up to the biggest of the palaces. So it was intriguing.
Although these are all Tony's designs, the ideas were stimulated by conversations with David Lynch.
Tony's problem with working with me is that I've got all these ideas and he has to sort of tune into me.
For Masters, this meant painting an endless array of conceptual pictures for the many different elements and worlds of Dune. At its height, the production employed 30 draftsmen to convert Tony's original paintings into blueprints for the construction of the sets, a scale rarely seen in today's films.
It's the biggest I've ever worked on because we've been able to do things in a very large scale here in Mexico that we wouldn't have been able to do anywhere else.
For example, the set of the Emperor's Palace featured 24,000 decorative stalactites. All total, more than 1,000 workers added painstaking detail to 76 sets. 8 sound stages were completely filled, ripped down, and filled again. And according to director of photography Freddie Francis, the feel of Dune was starting to take shape.
This has all amounted to something really larger than life. I mean, we couldn't have done it in the outside world, and we've had to sort of create our own.
Some of the sets were just too large to be contained indoors, including the 500-foot Hall of Rites.
Emperor! We come for you!
With the sets well under control, attention was now turned to the remarkable and unworldly creatures of Dune.
A third-stage guild navigator will be here within minutes.
One of the life forms created was the third-stage navigator, a 20-foot being that has the ability to fold space and travel through galaxies without moving.
It seems like it's still not quite doughy enough. Looks a little bit busy, but...
With input from Lynch, Carlo Rambaldi, who has won 3 Oscars and created E.T., took on the unenviable chore of bringing life to inanimate clay. Under the supervision of Rambaldi, 15 people worked on the Navigator for 3 months, each with a specific task which aided the transformation.
Ready? Touch it? Yeah. Keep the same pressure on it.
Very soon, with the touch-ups and molding process completed, the Navigator began to take form and begin a life of its own. With the aid of a complex cable and hydraulic system, operators were able to control levers and simulate 41 lifelike movements. At this point, the creature was transported from Los Angeles to Mexico City, where it went through some last-minute tests.
Not too much move. Don't make it just go back and forth. Just hesitate, do some dip variations. Very smooth. Okay, bring it back and let's try again.
Nobody was more pleasantly surprised by the success of the Navigator than its designer, Tony Masters.
I was completely free about what I designed. I had no idea whether we could make them work or not until I spoke to Carlo, and he has in fact made them exactly as we designed them, and the things work magnificently. I mean, they're just like live animals.
Roll it!
When the scene was finally shot, 22 operators worked in perfect harmony, breathing life into the Navigator on screen.
We have just folded space from X.
The realism of Rambaldi's work very much enhanced the performance of Jose Ferrer, who portrays the powerful emperor.
The creature is so beautifully constructed that with my actor's imagination, I give him powers of life, and I make myself believe that he's a really living, breathing creature, and I act with it.
Though the Navigator is an important element in the story, the monsters that are arousing the most interest are the legendary sandworms, the guardians of Dune's desert.
Whenever people know that I'm working on Dune, the question I get all the time is, how are you going to do the worm?
To achieve the illusion of these 1,000-foot worms, it required some real movie magic. With the help of giant blue screens, the technical crew had the actors pretend that they were being attacked. Later, in the film lab, the blue screens were replaced by the rampaging worms, thus giving a complete scene. For some actors, such as Francesca Annis, who plays Lady Jessica, acting to a menacing, imaginary foe was a new experience.
More than anything, its size is the most difficult thing to come to terms with. I mean, this is no ordinary worm.
You draw upon the imagination and hope that you're in scale with what the audience is going to see, you know, in reaction. That's the biggest worry.
As time was drawing nearer to actually begin shooting the picture, Frank Herbert paid a visit to the sets for the first time to see how his dream was growing.
The difficulty is actually building the sets, creating the reality that before you could build cheaply in your head. Oh my God, the Great Hall.
It's tremendous, it really is.
Everything I've seen, I see Dune.
That was no accident. David Lynch and Herbert saw Dune with essentially the same eye. Lynch's screenplay relied heavily on Frank's book, and as a result, a special relationship developed between them.
He's been more of a friend and a supporter than anything else, which is the most important thing that he could be.
It's going to be a real story about real people. That's what David Lynch is doing.
Okay, Frank?
Finally, on March 30th, 1983, after 2 years of pre-production, the day arrived that Herbert had dreamed of. The day Dune would come to life.
Dune. Slate one, take one.
After 20 years of, Frank's, book being out and 2 years of, me being, on the picture, cameras are finally going to start, being cranked up today. It's a great day.
Release the hammer ships!
One of the first locations the crew traveled to was a desert in Juarez, Mexico. 300 workers spent 3 months clearing away all the bushes, stones, and cactus over 25 square miles. The result was a glistening desert.
This place was covered with bushes. And now, see, they've cleaned it all off. And then there was footprints all over the place. But then 2 nights ago, they had this huge storm and the wind came in, and now it's just the perfect time to be here. It's really going to be incredible.
What was incredible was the heat, with temperatures approaching 120 degrees. Actors like Paul Smith relentlessly performed in the sun, even up to the point of heat exhaustion.
Today is 120. I'm in a costume that weighs 120 pounds. It does not breathe. And I'm waiting for them to say action. I said, David, I'm not sure I'm going to get to the camera. He wants me 8 steps from the camera. It's about a 300-yard walk.
Paul?
Yeah.
Have you got one more?
Sure, I got 10 more. Whereas, I will never forget it.
While technicians were setting up for a simulated windstorm, Kit West, supervisor of mechanical special effects, was nervously overseeing the implantation of explosives for a large battle scene. What made this dangerous sequence particularly difficult was the inexperience of the extras and the language barrier.
The majority of the extras were Mexican Army, and naturally these boys have never experienced anything similar to this. When you get 2,000 or 3,000 people running, there's always somebody who might think it's quicker to go to the right instead of going where he's told he's to go, and then we're in trouble.
Okay, David? Go. Action!
Thanks to proper planning and safety precautions, no one was injured in the scene. Another of Dune's striking visual effects is the evil Baron Harkonnen's ability to hover through the air. To achieve this result, actor Ken McMillan had to spend hours each day being transformed into his hideous character. His most difficult chore was to bear the weight of a customized fat suit. Once on, McMillan weighed over 400 pounds and had to be helped to the set, where he was attached to a traveler hanging high above the crew. After some adjustments were made...
Come up some more. More. Okay, now let's take them back another 3.5 inches or so. Great.
The wires were painted and specially lit to conceal them from the camera.
I won't tell you who the traitor is, or when we'll attack.
When the actual scene was filmed, the Baron floated not to the unearthly sounds that will be used in the movie, but to the familiar beat of swing music used to help get Ken in the mood. To capture the almost mystical mood of Dune, special attention had to be paid to the musical score. The group chosen to complement the many subtleties of the film was a successful rock and roll band, Toto. And even though the score had epic overtones, the band's composer, David Page, approached the project with a simple philosophy.
Certainly if there's a love scene going on, you're not going to write thunderous, evil music. You're going to write something pretty and passionate. They created 7 different themes for the film, including a battle theme, a synthesized music background for a robot fight, and one for Paul, the lead character. While the rest of the group worked on the score, David Page traveled to Vienna to record the band's compositions with the 90-piece Vienna Symphony Orchestra.
Here, Tom, here's the tape.
For this project, Toto had to be concerned with the technical aspects not only of recording the music, but also of timing it to fit the scenes.
When that thing fades out, something keeps going over the top of that, into that.
As director David Lynch listened, the soundtrack to Dune began to take form.
It's seeing scenes come alive, totally being transformed. It was powerful.
2 decades have passed since Frank Herbert introduced us to the experience of Dune. And as the ultimate fan, he feels the film has succeeded in its effort to be true to his work.
I'm not one of these authors who sits there tearing his hair out saying, "What are you doing to my baby?" Because I know what they're doing to my baby. They're doing a beautiful job.
From the literary pages of Herbert to the interpretive mind of director David Lynch, Dune has been a collaborative effort, a joining of their minds, along with that of many others, to bring to the screen a story that will fill our imagination for years to come. The story of Dune.